Every year in April, I write a paragraph or two for our local church district assembly. This pastor's report is supposed to very briefly summarize the ministry that our church has engaged in over the past 12 months. And while I am definitely not a big fan of paperwork, the opportunity every year to look back at what was accomplished in our ministry as a church is always encouraging, and surprisingly, that wasn't much different this year. Now, the pandemic has definitely kept us physically separated much of the past year, but the people of Oasis still found ways to serve our community. Every Sunday, you see on camera the studio that we've built using our church community to pull off some pretty incredible stuff so that we could continue to preach the gospel for months and months. We helped a single mother furnish and move into a brand new safe living situation. In the wake of last year's wildfires, Oasis gave money and supplies to relief centers from Salem down to Medford and even all the way out to the coast. We helped families repair homes and find all new housing when they needed it. And many of you answered the call, not just with financial gifts, but with your time as well, as you spent helping countless hours at the distribution center here in Salem and at our sister church in Lincoln City. After the ice storm, the chainsaws and the wheelbarrows and the rakes came out to help clean up yards and even clear roads. The church subscription to Right Now Media has been well used this last year for online community groups, for the youth group, for Bible studies, and some pretty wholesome entertainment for kids who were suddenly stuck at home. Our children's leaders helped to keep kids connected with cards and basket drop-offs throughout the year. Our youth leaders got creative with outdoor events and games and Zoom meetings that ministered not only to the spiritual needs of our youth, but also to the mental and the social needs of our teens. Our ladies have found ways to encourage each other with outdoor meetups and prayer. And there were countless private moments and phone calls and Zoom meetings where people were checked up on, spiritual battles were fought, and prayers were said. Relationships with Christ have begun brand new this year, and some have been renewed. And every one of you who stayed home, who wore a mask, who washed your hands, loved and served your neighbors by doing the little things to help keep other people safe. And on this side of heaven, you may never know whose life you made better or even saved this year by taking these small little precautions, but I am positive that you did. I'm proud of what you've managed to accomplish this year, Oasis, because it has been a year unlike any other. And I'm even more convinced now, more than ever, that life is a series of transitions, because here we go again. We're going to go from a studio to sanctuary. In the last year, you learned to record those little videos that we called This is Oasis, and how to work towards building this community in a virtual space. And when we found this, frankly, kind of ugly space, which used to be a storage area, you cleaned it and moved in all of our stuff. You painted and you ripped out carpet and you helped to put down brand new flooring and constructed sound absorbing panels. You helped wire all of the Ethernet and the security, and you helped to plan this stage setup that we use on Sundays. You hung lighting, you learned new systems, and you even built a movable wall, which is pretty cool. And because of all you've helped us to do, we now have the studio set up with Stage A and even room for a small audience, which is awesome. And we're pretty excited to be planning to get back together with the whole church as soon as we can. Now, if you were paying strict attention to all of those studio update videos over the last couple of months, you might be wondering, what happened to Stage B, where the band was supposed to play and do new recordings? If there's any constant in life, especially during a global pandemic, it is the reality of change. And when we planned and built Stage B, the best estimates available to us at the time said that vaccines would probably be available to the general public sometime between July and September. And so Stage B was just about ready to be used at almost the exact same time as our local schools started to transition to this hybrid in-person teaching. And this was wonderful for families with kids, believe me. And it was also a ton of additional work for our teachers and our school staff. And because our worship team families happen to include several teachers, we paused on the use of stage B during this crazy busy time of transition for them. And in the last number of weeks, the national vaccine effort has gone much faster than any of us could have possibly expected back in December. I'm sure that you've noticed that everybody in the country is now eligible to get a vaccine if they want it, and it's only April. This incredible push in vaccines, along with the improving rates of infections, mostly, but particularly serious hospitalizations due to COVID, is now giving us the chance to really think about getting creative in ways that we didn't think would be possible anytime soon. And so we're planning on returning in person, which means turning this space that God has given us from a studio into a sanctuary. Now, what does that mean for stage B? Was that wasted? No. Absolutely not. In fact, there was a lot of work and research done to make sure that all of the lighting and all of the equipment that we were going to use for stage B was specifically chosen to be able to be reconfigured into a traditional church stage setup. And even the wall that we built can be reused in the sanctuary. The team that worked on this has expressed excitement about our next steps and all of the positive news about bringing back the church, even though it means that their work won't actually get used in the way that we originally planned. So the question is, what's next? Because this space has never been rated for occupancy, we're working with the building manager and other officials to go through the process while at the same time making the physical changes to this space that will help to transition it from a parking garage to a studio and now into a sanctuary. We're going to keep giving it simple tweaks, moving as quickly as possible so that not all of the improvements that we have in mind will be done when we're back together, and that's okay because we will get there over time. We've identified a few relatively small but pretty significant projects that will help turn the space into a sanctuary for Oasis. We need to cover this ugly stuff up. We need to figure out ways to paint or cover with fabric, move some lights around, and set up some sound equipment so that the audience can not only see but also hear what's going on the stage. The online service will also be changing as we move our priority focused from online only to in-person and online. And it's going to include live band to lead us in music, and this means significant changes in our technical team's setup and the processes. Hopefully, this will be the last really big change for a while. We're keeping a commitment to this online service for streaming, for those people who prefer to join us live and those people who just aren't ready yet to come back in person, which is fine. So is Oasis home? Well, for now, yeah. We still have our building fund, and I sincerely appreciate every single one of you who continue to give to that fund so that we will be ready. We'll be in a position to buy or probably lease for long term when that time is right. We have not stopped looking for that next home for Oasis, and I regularly communicate with our realtor, and I even go looking at different properties when something looks possibly promising. So rest assured that that dream is still alive and we are working towards it. We asked God for a place of our own years ago, a place where we could leave the band set up, where they could come in and practice whenever they wanted, where community groups and the youth group could have a place to meet, a place that we could access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's exactly what God has given us. Now, it seems kind of like an odd spot for a church, and it certainly is not the prettiest place I've ever been in. But it is the place that God has given us. And God has also given us the people with the skills and the imagination to dream about and build what this place could become while we've got it. It is not what I had expected, but what has been. This may not be the space that we want to stay in forever, but we will not fail to recognize God's provision just because it comes in some unexpected package. And until God invites us into our next space, be it 6 months from now or a couple of years from now, we will embrace God's good gifts and we will use them to our best possible ability as we do everything that we can to continue to love and serve the community that God has put us in.